A warrior who does not trust the solidity of his armor will always hesitate before battle. A person who does not trust the ground beneath them will always walk with uncertainty. True strength is not found in endless striving. It is found in knowing what supports us when all else crumbles. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, but within this impermanence, there is a deeper truth. When we root ourselves in mindfulness and wisdom, no storm can shake us. Stillness does not mean passivity. It is a state of profound awareness. When we stop grasping and resisting, we enter the present moment fully. We see reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Today, I invite you to explore the power of stillness, not as weakness, but as a path to unshakable strength. When we cease struggling against life and instead flow with its nature, true transformation occurs. Stillness is not surrender. It is alignment with the deeper truth. The Buddha did not teach us to retreat into fear, but to awaken to the nature of suffering and move beyond it. When we cling to control, we create tension. When we release, we invite insight. The greatest battles are not won by force but by clarity. Many believe that constant movement equals progress, but true growth comes from deep understanding. It is not in doing more, but in being fully present. When we quiet the mind, we begin to see the causes of our suffering clearly, and only then can we walk the path to liberation. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment. If we are rooted in clinging, we will be tossed around by every change in life. But if we understand impermanence, we see that nothing, no pain, no loss, no fear, has the power to destroy us. Stillness is not about inaction. It is the conscious decision to stop grasping and to trust in the path. It is the moment before insight arises, before transformation takes place. It is the space where wisdom blossoms. There is a kind of stillness that comes from fear, when one is paralyzed by uncertainty. But there is also the stillness that comes from wisdom, when one sees that all things are impermanent and yet are unshaken by change. The Buddha encouraged us to develop this inner stability, to remain unmoved by the passing waves of emotion and circumstance. When we learn to observe the mind rather than be controlled by it, we shift from reacting to responding. We no longer fight the flow of life. We move in harmony with it. The world operates in cycles: gain and loss, joy and sorrow, birth and death. Just as the river carves the stone through persistence rather than force, wisdom allows us to overcome suffering not by fighting, but by understanding. When we stand firm in mindfulness, we do not allow external conditions to dictate our peace. When others panic, we remain still. When the world demands us to react, we choose to breathe. This is the power of stillness, not weakness, but a profound mastery over the self. There was once a man who had everything: wealth, power, and prestige. Yet in a moment he lost it all. His possessions were gone, his body weakened, and his friends abandoned him. Many told him to curse life, to fall into despair. But instead, he sat in meditation and uttered a simple truth: "This too shall pass." He understood the nature of suffering, not as something to escape, but as something to understand. He did not see himself as a victim of fate, but as a student of wisdom. His stillness was not defeat. It was the realization that nothing external could take away his inner peace. Life's greatest power does not come from resistance. It comes from acceptance. When we resist suffering, we make it stronger. When we see it clearly, we begin to transform it. Stillness allows us to break free from fear, from anger, from attachment. When we stop grasping at what is fleeting, we discover what is eternal, not in an external deity, but within ourselves. The Buddha reminded us that peace is not found outside, but within the awakened mind. Imagine a great city surrounded by an army. The people inside fear destruction, knowing they are outnumbered. But instead of fighting blindly, they wait. As dawn breaks, the enemy retreats, not because of weapons, but because fear has no hold over those who have mastered stillness. Some victories are not won through action but through wisdom. Some battles are not meant to be fought with force but with clarity. When we trust in the path, we do not need to control every outcome. We simply walk one step at a time, knowing that the journey itself is the answer. The greatest struggle in life is not against others. It is against our own illusions. When we fear the future, it is because we have forgotten the present. When we cling to the past, it is because we have forgotten impermanence. But when we are still, we awaken to the truth. We are not the storm, we are the sky. When the mind is restless, we do not silence it by force. We watch it, understand it, and let it settle on its own. True stillness is not about stopping life. It is about moving with wisdom. There will be times in life when we feel powerless. When plans fail, when relationships change, when health declines. It is in these moments that we must remember. The river does not resist the rocks in its path. It flows around them, shaping them with time. We do not need to fight everything. We do not need to control everything. We simply need to see clearly. And in seeing clearly, we find freedom. Trust is not blind faith. It is the wisdom of knowing that nothing lasts forever. If today is difficult, it will pass. If today is joyful, it too will pass. The goal is not to hold on to anything, but to experience it fully and let it go. When we stop fearing change, we stop suffering. When we stop clinging, we stop suffering. When we are still, we stop suffering. The Buddha's path is not about escaping reality. It is about seeing it clearly. He did not promise an easy life, but he did offer a way beyond suffering. This way is not through struggle but through understanding. When we stop running, we can finally rest. When we stop fighting, we can finally see. When we stop clinging, we can finally be free. Stillness is not giving up, it is waking up. It is seeing beyond illusion, beyond attachment, beyond fear. It is realizing that we were never truly trapped. Only our minds made it seem so. Let us take a breath. Let us sit in silence. Let us remember. We are not the storm, we are the sky. No matter what we face, we can meet it with awareness. No matter what we lose, we can remain whole. No matter what changes, our inner peace can remain unshaken. Stillness is not a weakness. Stillness is wisdom. Stillness is the doorway to awakening. Strength does not come from grasping or resisting. It comes from letting go and trusting in the wisdom of the path. A person who spends their life depending solely on external conditions will always feel at the mercy of change. But when we cultivate inner stability, we discover a strength that no external force can shake. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment, and true liberation comes from understanding impermanence. Some struggles in life cannot be won through sheer effort. They require a shift in perspective, a deep surrender to the natural flow of cause and effect. Stillness is not about doing nothing. It is about aligning ourselves with wisdom, allowing the natural unfolding of life to bring its own resolution. Stillness is not a lack of faith. It is the highest expression of trust. It is the realization that there are forces greater than our personal will. And when we stop fighting against life, we open ourselves to its deeper teachings. Stillness is the wisdom to say, I do not need to control everything. I trust in the unfolding of the Dharma. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control what is beyond them. They resist change, they struggle against impermanence, and in doing so, they increase their suffering. But when we step back and observe with mindfulness instead of grasping with fear, we allow life to guide us rather than try to force outcomes. Imagine a seed planted in the earth. If we constantly dig it up to check whether it is growing, it will never take root. Growth happens in silence, beneath the surface, beyond what the eyes can see. This is how the path unfolds. The Buddha encouraged patience, not passivity, but the deep trust that wisdom ripens in its own time. The Buddha teaches us to wait with mindfulness, not with frustration. The wise do not chase after fleeting rewards. They sit in stillness, knowing that truth reveals itself not through force, but through understanding. Stillness is not just waiting, it is waiting with deep awareness. There is a difference between helplessly surrendering to life and mindfully embracing each moment as it comes. The one who practices stillness does not sink into despair but remains fully present, fully aware, and fully engaged with the unfolding reality. There was once a woman who suffered for many years, seeking relief in countless ways but finding none. Then she turned inward, trusting not in external cures, but in the healing power of mindfulness. With patience she sat, she breathed, she let go. And in time, suffering loosened its grip, not because she forced it to leave, but because she no longer clung to it. This is the power of stillness. It does not resist, and in not resisting, it transforms. Many fear stillness because they mistake it for emptiness. But true stillness is not the absence of action. It is the fullness of awareness. It is the understanding that all things change and that in accepting this, we are freed from suffering. The Buddha taught that the mind, when still and clear, becomes like a mirror reflecting reality as it is. A disturbed mind sees chaos everywhere, but a mind in stillness sees with wisdom. It is in this stillness that we align ourselves with the flow of life rather than fighting against it. Waiting is not a weakness. Silence is not stagnation. The river does not rush to reach the ocean, yet it always arrives. The tree does not force itself to grow, yet it reaches its full height in time. The wise understand that there is no need for anxiety. What is meant to be will come, and what is not meant to stay will pass. When we stop grasping for control, we invite peace. When we step back, we allow wisdom to emerge. When we surrender our need to force an outcome, we align with the deeper currents of life. Stillness is not just about waiting, it is about creating the space for wisdom to arise. It is the moment when the mind becomes clear enough to see beyond distractions, beyond fears, beyond doubts. The Buddha taught that in stillness, we touch the truth of existence, free from illusion. When we are still, the noise of the world fades, and in that silence, we hear something greater. It is in the stillness that insight arises, that suffering dissolves, that peace takes root. There was once a kingdom on the brink of collapse. Famine, suffering, and fear spread through its streets. The people were desperate, grasping for solutions, fighting against their fate. But then a wise teacher arose and reminded them, "Do not act out of panic, act out of wisdom." And so, they did not react, they waited, they observed, and they moved with clarity instead of fear. And when the time was right, the famine lifted, not through blind struggle, but through understanding. This is how suffering is overcome, not by running from it, but by meeting it with wisdom. Many think that stillness is a delay in progress, but it is often the very thing that allows progress to happen. The Buddha taught that wisdom ripens when the mind is calm, not when it is restless. When we trust in this process, we allow life to unfold as it should, without grasping or forcing. There are times when the best action is to wait, not out of fear but out of deep trust, not out of weakness but out of the knowing that life moves in cycles, and everything arrives in its own time. In stillness, we create the space for transformation. The Buddha did not achieve enlightenment by chasing after it. He sat beneath the Bodhi tree in complete stillness, allowing the truth to reveal itself. Some breakthroughs can only come when we stop striving and simply allow wisdom to arise. Some obstacles dissolve only when we stop resisting them. The river does not fight against the stone, it flows around it. In the same way, we do not need to fight against life. We only need to understand it. Once, a young girl lay sick, surrounded by the fear and grief of those who loved her. Everyone believed that all hope was lost. But then, a great teacher entered the house. He saw beyond the fear, beyond the doubt, beyond the despair. He did not react to the noise. He silenced it. And in that stillness, healing was made possible. Sometimes, the greatest obstacles in life are not the problems themselves, but the fear and noise surrounding them. When we remove the distractions, when we silence the mind, we create the space for wisdom, for healing, for clarity. There are times when suffering seems overwhelming, when life seems uncertain. But the Buddha's teachings remind us, do not be afraid, do not grasp, do not resist. Simply see, simply understand, simply be. Stillness is not about escaping life. It is about seeing it clearly. It is about realizing that we do not need to fight every battle, because some battles are won simply by standing still. Let the mind be silent. Let the body be at rest. Let the breath flow naturally. In stillness you will find wisdom. In stillness you will find peace. In stillness, you will find the truth that has always been there, waiting beneath the noise, beneath the struggle. Stillness is not defeat. Stillness is the gateway to awakening. True peace is found not in resistance but in acceptance. The Buddha taught that clinging leads to suffering, and freedom arises when we let go. Just as a still pond reflects the sky without distortion, a mind free from grasping sees reality as it truly is. Stillness is not weakness. It is the highest form of wisdom. It is knowing when to act and when to trust the natural unfolding of events. Some struggle because they cannot accept the present moment, constantly seeking external solutions. But those who cultivate patience and mindfulness realize that transformation happens in the quiet spaces of awareness. The mind that lets go is the mind that receives. When we cease striving, we align ourselves with the natural flow of life, allowing wisdom to guide us. Just as a flower does not force itself to bloom, but opens when the conditions are right, we too must trust in the timing of the path. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from attachment, but when we surrender our expectations, we open ourselves to deeper understanding. Be still, and witness how wisdom unfolds beyond the limits of personal effort. To all those hearing my voice, let us turn inward and cultivate mindfulness. I invite you to reflect deeply, allowing the Buddha's teachings to fill your heart with clarity and peace. This is not merely a moment of contemplation, but an opportunity to reconnect with the boundless wisdom within. O enlightened one, teacher of all beings, your wisdom illuminates the path of awakening. You have shown us that suffering is not an enemy, but a teacher. You have revealed that true refuge is not found in external things, but within the mind that sees reality clearly. I bow in gratitude for the precious teachings that show us the way beyond suffering. I take refuge in the Buddha, whose wisdom guides me. I take refuge in the path he revealed, the way that leads to liberation. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that supports all beings in their journey. I reflect on my thoughts, words, and actions, acknowledging that there have been moments of ignorance, attachment, and aversion. I open my heart to transformation, embracing the path of right speech, right action, and right mindfulness. I release all resentment and forgive those who have harmed me, just as I seek forgiveness for any harm I have caused. The Buddha taught that hatred never ceases through hatred, but only through love. May I cultivate this wisdom and free my heart from all burdens. Thank you for reminding me that true peace is not found in control, but in letting go. May I trust the path, knowing that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Fear, anxiety, and doubt are illusions of the restless mind. I now release them. Just as a river flows effortlessly to the ocean, I allow life to unfold without resistance. The Buddha taught that the mind is everything what we think we become. I refuse to let fear shape my reality. I choose wisdom over worry, clarity over confusion. I rest in the truth that all things arise and pass and that no storm lasts forever. May I have the patience to allow the path to unfold in its own time. May I have the wisdom to recognize that every experience, joyful or painful, is part of my awakening. I surrender my struggles into the hands of wisdom, for the Buddha has already shown me the way. I do not need to grasp or resist. Awakening is not forced, it is realized. I call upon the healing power of mindfulness to restore balance to my body, mind, and spirit. Just as the Buddha taught the power of right view, right thought, and right action, may I align my energy with truth. May I see clearly, act compassionately, and let go of all that no longer serves my highest good. I declare that suffering does not define me. I am not bound by my past, nor by the illusions of the mind. The Buddha's wisdom shines like a beacon, reminding me that liberation is possible here and now. May the protective energy of loving kindness shield me and those I love from harm. May all beings be free from suffering. May the power of wisdom dissolve all obstacles, illuminating the path ahead. As I breathe in, I welcome peace. As I breathe out, I release all fear. To all those listening, may your heart be open to these words. May you find strength in stillness, wisdom in patience, and peace in the present moment. Let us come together in faith, knowing that even in the silence, transformation is taking place. We lift each other up with compassion, recognizing that we are all walking the path together. May each step we take be one of mindfulness and love. May we trust that the unfolding of life is never random but always meaningful. In stillness we awaken. In trust we are free. May all burdens be lifted. May all suffering be eased. May all beings awaken to the truth of their own boundless nature. May the Buddha's wisdom guide us. May his teachings illuminate our minds. And may we walk this path with courage and grace. For wisdom is eternal, love is limitless, and truth is unshakable. If these words have resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. You can help spread the Buddha's teachings by sharing these insights with others. There are many seeking guidance, and even a single word of truth can be a light in the darkness. Remember to practice mindfulness daily, to nourish your spirit with wisdom, and to walk the path with an open heart. You are not alone. Your journey is supported by all those who seek truth. For those who are new to the path, I encourage you to take refuge in wisdom. The Buddha did not come to be worshipped. He came to show the way. The path of awakening is open to all, regardless of past mistakes or present struggles. The journey begins with a single step. The step of awareness. If you wish to dedicate yourself to the path, begin today. Cultivate mindfulness. Study the teachings. Surround yourself with those who uplift your spirit. Now that you have set your intention, walk forward with confidence. Seek out a teacher or a community that resonates with your heart. Strengthen your practice through meditation, reflection, and loving kindness. The path is here waiting for you. Feel free to leave a message of gratitude or a request for guidance in the comments. As a community, we support one another, and your journey is honored here. Even if you do not receive a direct response, trust that your words have been heard. We practice together, we grow together, and we awaken together. Let go of doubt, let go of fear. Walk in wisdom. Walk in peace. May the light of truth guide you always.